Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say a quick hello and welcome. Welcome to another fascinating edition of the program ASHFORD GARLEY Live on British TV Africa, British Radio Africa. Today is Monday, the 8th of January, 2024. And we're coming your way from a city near you, the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Oh, bad. With about 28 degrees. Very cold. You might want to please dress warm before you head out. Well, as always, folks, Father God, we come to you tonight with a sense of gratitude. The Father, you woke us up this morning. We just want to say thank you. We want to pray for British Radio, our panelists. We want to pray for Liberia and its people. The soon-to-be ex-president, President Weah, the incoming president, Joseph Yuma Boyka. We want to pray for our children. We also want to pray for the backbone in the homes, the women that don't usually get credit for what they do. In the name of Jesus, we have given thanks. Well, some heard the name and some heard people talk about it. But you have the opportunity tonight to match the name, face, and voice. Basi Yompru. Se kogura e pelea. Boro blai pare koyo boro sei. Na bom no dwebla mu. Na bom no grow no na. Wo koya dwebla. Ye nyu somo pon azu oguya. Mo wura ka mo jimi agre. Se tu pa yege zebon blow dan anja ko me o ji. He doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely stronger than a lion. The mastermind, the doctor of love, the medicine of the microphone, Africa's media doobie-doo extraordinaire. The media mogul creator, the giant, the now you know me Garley. Welcome. I'd like to say hi to Solomon Prince, Hashim family. I also like to say hi to Zian Poor. Zian, it's been a long time, my man. Phoebe Loarity, the big brother and friend, Bruce and Myers, my big sister Edith Campbell, Stephen Tambat, Shoyi Singh, Mr. Austin Yonin, Dustin Yonin, Mr. Michael Talley Zili, and the rest of the crew, Cheston Famets. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you our panelists tonight, beginning with my ever-powerful co-host, my very loyal co-host, my friend and small sister, Mrs. Lexi Brooks Roberts.
Hey, Mr. Garley, can you see me?
Hi, Mrs. Roberts.
Good evening. How are you?
Well, I'm better than good. Happy New Year again.
Same to you. Great to be back here.
Okay.
Into a new year. Thank you for keeping down the shift. I've been seeing your one-on-ones, your afternoon soccer game. Very interesting.
Okay. Thanks, Lighty. I'd like to introduce my professional colleague. The first love is journalism. He went on to do a lot of great things, and he's one of those respected doctors. Please join me as we welcome Dr. James T. Fisk. Dr. Fisk, hello, to welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashford, and yeah, thank you, and welcome to Mrs. Letty Brooks Roberts and any other guests that will be panelists that will be appearing on the show. Happy New Year! I'm glad to be back. I want to also welcome listeners and viewers out there, and tell you that I mean, with my presence, you're going to have another explosive edition of ASHFORD GARLEY Live on British Radio in Africa. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Fisk. Well, I'd like to introduce a financial analyst, a political enthusiast. This young man has traveled extensively, not only in Europe, but in Africa and other parts of the world. He's very stern and he's a no nonsense guy when it comes to the law for Liberia. So he doesn't mince his words. Please join me at this time, ladies and gentlemen, as we welcome uh, Alice Chuchu Jones. Please,
Mr. Garley, thank you very much for having me, and thank you for that generous introduction. I highly appreciate it. And Happy New Year to all of the panelists. And it's a pleasure to be here on one of the largest platforms to give my own commentary and analysis. Thank you for having me.
You might like him or hate him, but this guy that is coming up next is fearless, he's powerful, he doesn't care what you think about what he says, but he will say it anyway. So please join me as we welcome the Reverend George.
Thank you, Ashford, for having me, and thanks to our panelists. Good to see you again, Dr. Fix. Happy New Year to everybody. I hope we have an exciting discussions today, and our listener will be blessed. Thank you.
Okay. Next is a professor, historian, journalist, you name it. He's also so passionate about our country, Liberia. As a matter of fact, this young man has been in contact with the people here in the West just to make our country look better. Not to take up your time, please join me to welcome Dr. Artemus Gay.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Good to see all the faces. Especially my sis, Letty Brooks Roberts. Happy New Year. Yes, I'm so excited. Dr. Fix, everyone.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for having us here.
Thank you. Good evening.
Now, I want to uh, begin the program tonight on the segment of accidental fires in our country. And I will ask uh, Mrs. Letty Brooks Roberts to take the lead on this one. Accidental fire or arson. You know, the case of the multiple fire outbreaks in Liberia, anywhere from the port of Buchanan to the transport ministry, the Ministry of Finance, and we just saw a vehicle belonging to the staff at the Capitol building set ablaze. You know, what is going on in our country, Mrs. Roberts?
Yeah, Mr. Garley, good evening again to my fellow panelists. Thank you all for joining. Welcome to another exciting edition of Bridge Radio Africa with your host, Ashford, the Giant Garley. Mr. Garley, in reference to that question, I made joke of it today because this is my first time in my adult life hearing of such, at the end of an administration, ironically, important buildings go on fire. I was just wondering what's next. Is it a central bank? Because I want to be there to help get the loot. So, it's a serious issue. And to find out that this has happened more than once, twice, and I don't know what's been done about it. It's concerning.
Dr. Fisk.
I mean, we don't have forensic investigators in Liberia, so at the end of the day, all we can do is to speculate. And what we do know is that once upon a time during the administration, I believe, of Samuel Kyan Doe, when Doe decided to bring in U.S. experts to work alongside Liberian counterparts to kind of beef up the economy, I think it was the finance ministry, the section that had to do with revenue or whatever caught on fire and stuff like that. So the thing is, this is a broader picture, and that's the picture. People speak saying, "Oh, we have a good democracy," and I'm reminded that democracy, with these kind of instances, is not just the casting of ballot. Democracy is about accountability. So what this shows is yet another signal that Liberia does not have a strong democracy. Liberia is still trying to build a democratic system. Because once that system is built, people understand that the institutions need to be protected. And, you don't just all of a sudden, when there's a change of regime and then there's a possibility, like Mr. Bwaka indicated, that there will be an audit because he doesn't want to fall into the same trap as Mr. Weah. And then all of a sudden we see places getting on fire. So we can, we can speculate in a helpful way that these things are being orchestrated, and they are being orchestrated to prevent the truth from being accessed by the Liberian public. Mind you, now the essence of democracy is that the power actually belongs to the people, which the likes of George Weah have come to realize. Thank you.
Alice Chuchu Jones.
Yes, I mean, I would agree with my fellow panelists. This has been a precedence. It was as he said, it was on Doe when the Ministry of Finance was set ablaze during a period where there was speculation of corruption and whatnot. However, I think it would be very stupid for anyone to try to cover up corruption because we live in an internet age. I'm sure every document is backed up. I'm sure they have some kind of paper trail at different ministries. So I really don't see the point. So I would just give them the benefit of the doubt because it doesn't make any sense to burn one paperwork, when there are other trails, documents, and there are other hard drives, in this DNA age. So I think it's just stupid that if that's the case, but I really want to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Okay, let me bring in the Dr. Gay.
Thank you. It is unfortunate that we found ourselves reminded of fire at a time when we have a very poor fire and rescue program in Liberia. We also find it ironic that in the dying days of this administration, as I've always once said, Mr. Weah's administration began with a disaster that happened in Nimba, and his administration is ending with fire disasters. So you question yourself, what's going on, or what has been checked, what has been erected, or what has been the way forward. But it will intrigue you as a face of the world, that historical aspect of Samuel Doe and the guys coming from the USA to help in that particular room being burned. We found the Ministry of Transport. Don't forget, Transport Ministry has a lot to do with our revenue. We also had the fires incident in the Port of Buchanan, and then the guy who ran the port, Basikia, his car burned. And then we have one finance ministry. So the question then becomes, what has this administration done in terms of curtailing these fires? And is there a way to investigate forensic aspect And this shows us to what Mr. Barker, President Barker, incoming Barker would do. Because for him to sweep this on the rug, it means business as usual. We should take this serious and I pay homage and always recognize those who passed in that fire disaster through the time. So this is serious.
Okay, listen. I will bring in Dr. George, and then we'll play uh, an image of what we saw today at the transport ministry. Dr. George, please unmute your device. Please unmute your device. We can hear you, Dr. George. Okay,
Can you
go
hear
ahead.
me now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, what I was saying is, this is, first of all, we say condolences if there were lives lost, and we send our prayers to those families and Liberian people who are suffering these things. But for me, I see it from different angle. And the angle is always try to look and think out of the box. I think if you know the political process, the democratic process that Dr. Fix spoke about, something is called expediency. I think there were some premature statements made right after the election was won. And knowing the nature of the kind of government that is leaving power, I don't know whether it was necessary to say it's almost like a witch hunt. We're gonna do this, we're gonna order, we're gonna do that one. Now we have fire breaking out. What are you gonna do about it? The same irresponsible government are supposed to ensure that these things are investigated are the one leaving power and are the one leaving power under the threat of audit. So it's almost like inevitable that we have this kind of thing. So Liberia is right now at the mercy of a bunch of criminals that took power out of the name of popularity or soccer star. And this is what we're getting. Obama said something. Elections have consequences. So we pray that the government can do its best when it takes power. But again, there may be little that the incoming government can do if all the pieces of evidence are destroyed. I'm going to talk about the internet age. Of course, we're in the internet age, but it is the same internet age we are in here in America. Sorry for any political position you may have. I'm just using this as an example. We saw in this country where under the most powerful FBI investigation, documents were destroyed. Computer hard drive were bleach based. Uh, uh, 30,000 emails were missing. So all those things can be tempered with. I just believe that it's a lesson to learn. A government coming in, don't sound like you are coming in with witch hunt. Use wisdom. Okay, we just want a smooth transition. And when you get in, now you have the state power. You can do whatever that is proper in terms of governance. You want to do audit, you do audit. But I tell you, since the election whistle was blown, there's gonna be all kinds of talk show going on. We'll audit this one, we'll audit that one. This is stage that you set when you play that kind of political game.
Thank you.
And that's how I will leave it there.
Okay, now, folks, let us do this. If you're not speaking, can you please just mute the device because we keep hearing echo and going in and out. What, folks? If you're just joining us, I'd like to say hi to you. Our topic gift is watching us from Liberia. I also like to say hi to Tony Wilson. The Reverend Dr. Walter D. Gooden II is also watching. Florence Tiller, Human Throw, Crane God is also in the building. Mr. Emmanuel Jackson at the Boston is watching us tonight as well. And I also like to say hi to Beatrice Monen, Stephen, Chayo, and Hashim family, the rest of the crew. Well, I don't know if it was on a George Weah, but one of these administrations where you will call the fire brigade and they will tell you, say, Lord, go check first if the real fire before we bring the water. I don't know, and I won't be surprised if it's on a George Weah, because nothing surprises me about the soon-to-be outgoing administration. So, and this is very scary, ladies and gentlemen. You see that a very thick smoke coming out of the transport ministry, and you see firefighters going in the building. Look at the thickness of the snow, of the smoke, and you see people going in there. Up to now, we don't know what started the fire, but one of the guys who tried to carry safety gears to Liberia, uh, some donation he got from firefighters here in the United States, Chicago to be precise. I saw some of the gears being used today. I don't know if was some of the things that he sent to Liberia. Let me begin with Dr. Gay. Dr. Gay, this notion that we are going to verify to see if there's a real fire before we start to bring the fire truck or the water and stuff like that. I don't know. It was under George Weah's administration, but that's just the mentality of our people. What is your take?
Well, as a disclaimer, I'm not a firefighter. Had nothing to do with fire, except that I believe in safety and taking courses in safety and prevention.
I never said you were a firefighter though. I just said you have.
You're right. You absolutely said that. I just want to make that disclaimer because people are going to know that we were the one that sent over 10 million hours of equipment. We had to literally share some of them around other countries because the Liberian government under George Weah would not allow a wonderful program that was been started by the city of Chicago through our good friend Patrick McDermott that will have used Liberia as the headquarters for Africa Threat and Emergency Response Center. Chicago has the second largest fire department in America. Its fire budget is almost $2 billion. So these people were trying to help our country and help create jobs for young men and women under George Weah administration, beginning with his administration. And we form money. Let me use the names of a few people here tonight. Mr. Gago Mawe, or his father, Albert, Duko Wise, my father, Bubba Gay. We all were so excited packing those equipment. Sent 12 foot containers of one of the most expensive gears. And you're right, the uniforms are wearing were the Chicago uniforms. The gears you saw were Chicago gears. The winter bar is interesting that at the Freeport of Monrovia, Liberia has maybe the only one in the region. We have 4 jaws of life. The jaws of life will have taken less than a minute to open the winter bar. But they are still sitting at the Freeport of Monrovia because we cannot connect them. The expert who should have put them together are still here in Chicago. So again, the water issue has been an age-old problem we observed. So in fact, I listened to my friend Alex Dixie, not knowing the source of fire. But there are 3 things at least I learned that will cause a fire: heat, oxygen, and the source of that combustion. So if you basically strangulate those 3 things, you pretty much can put the fire under control. And it might just be limiting the fumes. But again, these things are sitting on the fire Monrovia since 5 years. Some of them, at least the fire service keeps them to use. That's how sad our situation is.
And Dr. Face, this is not the first time where we've seen fires such as this. When do we begin to start to take precaution? Where in the real world you put out this kind of fire in no time, with the appropriate gears.
Yeah, I mean, and which is you just read my mind. The thing is, we have to develop a systemic approach, institutional approach towards issues in Liberia. What do I mean by that? Before anybody move into a building that has been constructed, it has to be inspected by the fire marshal. In other words, they have to look at the building and say that if there's any fire, this place is safe and documents will be preserved. And one of the reasons why that could happen is that those buildings should be fitted with enough fire extinguishers. So if there were fire extinguishers in that place, I'm sure that fire were being controlled rather than blowing up to what it was. So there was a time in Liberia that they were asking every taxi to have at least some kind of fire extinguisher in it. Okay, so I guess what I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to put in the discussion is that whether it's George Weah government or it's Joseph Boakai government or anyone who is inclined towards vices that will be detrimental to the development of the democratic process. You want to make sure that you have systemic things in place, so that even if they decide that okay, this is what we're going to do, it's going to be hard for them to succeed. So had the government thought and preempted the possibility that things like this would happen, that fire would not have been what it was today. Because what you have fire extinguishers all over the place, you will have people taking, fire drill. Okay, which is what happened in this country. People do fire drill so that if there's any fire, they know how to use an extinguisher, how to escape a building, and to present loss of life and all of these kinds of things. So this is where Liberia should be moving. We should not see after 100 and something years of independence, we are still at the infancy when it comes to making sure that we have certain systemic structures in place. That's what I would say.
Okay, before we go to Alex, if any one of you have more than one device, please switch off one. I think we keep getting the echo out there. So you mistake the tone on one first, and for some reason it didn't work, and you try to turn it the second one. Could be the problem of the echo that we are experiencing now. Mr. Jones, you besides you being a finance guy, you're very analytical and you're a very critical thinker. What needs to be done to avoid these snippets of fire? I mean, you see that in very important buildings. From the finance ministry to the ministry of transport. What is going on?
Ashford, that's a very good question because most of the times we are reactive in Liberia. A tanker gets, inferno, and everybody comes out and we blame the president. The president is not a firefighter. The president is not head of the city. Okay, Liberia is a republic. Every city, this president is not the legislator. So I think as what needs to be done. One is Liberia needs to be restructured. We do not have cities. As the brother was saying, fire brigades are a function of cities. These cities collect taxes, all right? And that's how you can fund a fire department, and you can fund different services in the city. We have a failed state. And we have a failed state because the people in government, not just George Weah, remember George Weah. How many Unity Party legislators were in the house for the last 2 past years? The Young Black Congress, the Darius DeLong. What are they doing there? Why can't they make sure that these cities around Monrovia, because if it's central Monrovia, that's a district. Why can't they try to organize cities, Painesville, Monrovia, different parts of the country so that these people can run independently like any other country? Why everything got to flow from the president? Like a dictatorship. So that's what needs to be done. You have Russell once upon a time that ran in Minnesota, very smart man. This is his expertise in city, formation and city management. We don't have any city in Liberia. That's the problem. And we have idiots in government, in Senate, representative. All they want to do is collect pay. Why are you paying people $15,000 when you don't even have the proper equipment for fire? You don't have water system. We just heard today $650,000, and so many people for Unity Party will support that and say, "Oh, George, we have a 900,000." Is this what our country is going to keep going through? Because this other man, ran the light, so everybody got to run the light. Can we not take $650,000 and put it in JFK or the fire service or something? Look at 40,000 here. The economy is $70 billion. The inauguration was 100,000. Why is Liberia spending that kind of money? Why are we supporting war? What are they going to do? Drink champagne, drink Gordon? The capital building is paid for by the government. You don't need to pay for it. The security services are paying for their own monthly salary. Maybe 50,000 or 75,000. That's it. You don't need to spend that kind of money. Those funds should go wherever we need funding for things, the hospitals or services, then the country ain't got money. But when we need funding for inauguration, we need funding to pay legislators that both the Unity Party, the Liberty Party, they're all corrupt and inadequate. That's the problem, not just the president. It's a systemic failed state, Nigeria. That's what we need to change.
Mrs. Letty Brooks Roberts, speaking of not having cities, Monrovia was built originally to host 350,000 people. Today, we have over 1.5 million people in the tiny Monrovia. Uh, Decentralization is a must. Why everybody has to be in Monrovia? I mean, I think that could be one of the reasons why you see the every now and then fire outbreaks and the septic tank getting loose and all over the place.
Thank you, Mr. Garley. Just as my fellow panelists have stated, that's the job of the legislators, the city, the superintendents, the mayors, the local government. Everything does not rest on just the president. So who oversees? I mean, he's an overseer, but who does the little things? Everybody cannot be chiefs. So yes, it was originally built as many cities. Populations have grown over the years in all over the world, right? But our country has all this money, as my brother just stated, but it goes to the places they want it to go. We just had a incident with people burning to ashes or to beyond life, but they were able to be transported to hospitals just for the sick. What happens next? Like, every city that I know, or most homes too, when something happens, that's what gives you the incentive to improve or to put measures in place. So when I grew up some years ago in Liberia, I want to bet, I haven't asked, but I want to bet we have one fire brigade, as it's called. One for a whole city. There's east, west, north, and south. So you are setting people up. That was then. Let's say the population was smaller, but you have all these people, every town, all these little jogging town, nuclear town, every place you have their little hub. Okay, you may have bigger places somewhere else, but all these places you have a hub that they initiate the service while more people come. But it just like people are just taking this country for granted, where they just come, oh, I'm a senator. Oh yeah, what do you do? Do you have all of the necessary tools? Just like your kitchen, do you have a pot? Do you have a spoon? Do you have a plate? Even those things. Every town needs to have all of the necessary. The last time I posted that on my page, if you don't have fire services, if you don't have emergency response team, people in the community, even if you don't have all of the necessary paid people, volunteers, have them on standby. We'll give you a stipend every now and then. That's how you build cities and then countries and counties or whatever. But, for me, I was going on a sabbatical. I was happy that we haven't been doing the show because talking about Liberia gave me a headache every day. While it's true that happens all over the world, but we're talking about little things. Little things. Like a whole country hospital. People should donate ointment. Where is the backup?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. George.
It's frustrating.
Let me unmute my microphone.
Mm-hmm.
Going a few things that that are worth exploring. But let me begin with the first one. We do have cities. We have the city of Monrovia, the city of Pinsville, the city of Brevet,
carries burden and all these things. But I guess what he's saying and what also Dr. Fix is saying, kind of correlate. Here we have, for example, you want to know Liberia has failed a long time ago? Let me say a few examples. From the time I was young, we've been having Minister of Post and Telecommunication with a whole ministry, deputy minister, assistant minister. You go down the list. Today, you can't deliver a single meal anywhere in Liberia. The question is, what have they been doing? You have the Ministry of Public Works, for example, that's supposed to coordinate with the Ministry of Posts and all the different cities to improve the zoning laws. Today, people build houses, no toilet, nothing, no zoning code, nothing. If we talk about fire extinguisher, fire deterrent, all of that. Now, you put all that together, the marker is that here we are, we're talking about, I don't know if Brother June is correct, I hope you're correct, 650,000 for inauguration. Remember, from day one when we had this conversation, I was demanding that we want to know the budget, we want to know the scope, we want to know how much these people spend. And everybody was saying, no, it's too premature, don't worry. The Ambassador Barker will call it 650,000 to do what? Pump and pageantry. You don't have beds, you don't have medication, you have nothing at the GFK. The doctors there take everything from the GFK that comes from relief organization and they put it in their private clinics. And here we are. Remember when we had this conversation, I cited the example of the late John Magufuli of Tanzania, who when he came to power, they were having all the same a national holiday, and he took all the money and put 300 beds and medication for the hospital and said, look, this national celebration, we are using it for national cleanup campaign. Cancel all the scheduled events. Nobody dies. So here we are. So I think, but the brother spoke something. Those who are advising the government, the outgoing government, the incoming government, they need to come and tell the Liberian people, why do you need 650,000 to do an inauguration, one event? Here we have fire, no equipment. The brother has been complaining, Dr. Gay, about equipment that they sent to Liberia that are locked up at the Freeport. I know our listener will say fire happens everywhere. That's true. Here in America, fire happens. They have all the sophisticated equipment. But at least the attempt and the effort put into putting off and quarantining such a situation can lessen the damages and the effect. And we know fire will happen everywhere. So we got a long way to go. But I hope we can talk about this whole, even though the fire is important, but at the end, I hope we can talk about this incoming administration and the outgoing administration and the budget that they have set before Liberian people. If my brother is correct, 650,000. I'm interested in knowing.
He's correct.
With that. Thank you.
Okay, speaking of the country and the incoming administration, Dr. Fisk, is Liberia prepared, or can the incoming GMB administration mitigate these threats of fire and environmental pollutions affecting Liberia?
Well, as they are getting off the gates, let me just give all of us the benefit of the doubt and work with the numbers that we have. $650,000. It's not a good indication. Okay, and what I said on the program at that time, I still stand by my word. Other platforms may want to speculate. Okay, but I think it becomes a healthy discussion that now we know the figures. Now we can be critical and we can criticize. Okay, because now we know the facts. Okay, it was up to us to give us the benefit of the doubt, give them the benefit of the doubt, and say they are coming with a goodwill because they came with a whole platform of arrest. Okay, but it looks like they're already arresting themselves. Because if you talk about $650,000 in the midst of all of these poverties and the rest of it, then that's some serious problem. Okay, so nobody was there Trump blowing Trump up for Joseph Boakai. No, what I said at the time is that let's not have this program as another speculative machinery. No, let's try to rise above that level. So now we have the number. No, that's ridiculous. Okay, I can join the chorus and say that's extremely ridiculous. That's number one. Number two, it shows that Western democracy has been a failure across Africa. It's ridiculous that you sit down, you see somebody stealing the money of the country and say, well, the only time we can do something about A is 6 years from now. That's nonsense. The white people that gave us democracy will never, ever have a system that allows them to see wrong and not do anything about that wrong until a period. Okay, so we need a more robust democracy. Okay, and in places where you see these kinds of failures, what have we seen? We've seen military coup. Okay, we've seen military coup, and most of these coups have been working in the interest of the people. They've been more responsive to the needs of the people. That's the essence of democracy. So if that is not happening, then I'm sorry. Now with Waka coming in, and what is even worse is that we used to have an unemployment rate that's very sky high. And then in the midst of that unemployment, you're spending $650,000. That's ridiculous. Okay, now you've not even addressed the major issue, even though you are not president, but you have not even come up with an agenda to create job opportunity. And people talk about decentralizing Liberia, Monrovia. How do you decentralize Monrovia other than create job opportunities in other countries so that people go there to look for those jobs? And I've always argued on this program that if you create factories, you build factories where people can go and work in factories and get money, you'll see people leaving that will be about city planning, blah blah blah, and the rest of it. While people,
we're having problem with this audio. Mr. Gay, excuse me, coming with that. Dr. Fix, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. Continue. End your thought.
I'm just saying that we need a new paradigm shift in Liberia. Okay, politically, the country is a failure. Democracy is a failure in the country. Okay, all of these things that we've talked about, the congestion of the city and all that kind of stuff, it speaks to the fact that there's a voting process in place, but that in itself does not enunciate the fact that we've arrived when it comes to democracy, and the fact that we continue to play with the lives of the people only because they continue to give us power. It says that within the long run, Liberia is headed along the path of Mali. Liberia is headed along the path of Guinea because people will not continue to take this step anymore. They've already made it clear with the likes of George Weah. You think the Liberian people will continue to sit down and see people at the top dividing riches while they continue to suffer? That stuff is not going to last for long. Trust me.
Dr. Gate, how prepared is the incoming administration in terms of combating mitigating the threats of fire? Hold on, Dr. Gate.
Okay.
The problem that we face with the fire threats, most of the panelists frown on the $650,000 of the budget for the inauguration. So let me hear you out.
Well, the richest nation on earth, United States, spent $100 million to $200 million on inauguration, and 40% sponsored by private citizens. A rich country, they can afford to do it. If you do the percentile wise, it's a little. You have the third poorest country in West Africa putting 650 up. It comes back to what Reverend George and I were one time talking about. And it hurts because it means that President Waka is not learning. George Weah had money, almost $300,000 for Ellen for the vice president's office just before she took over. And I think almost the same amount for his house. This was spent in a time when things were tough for Liberia. So we asked the question to ourselves, where and why is it being spent? For what purpose? For what purpose? There's a book written by a guy, I think cousin, he cousin Eugene Innes. We've been going back and forth with a guy, a classic writer, Barrington Moore. He wrote a very beautiful book called "The Social Origin of Dictatorship and Democracy, Lord and Peasants." It is a good fit. If I were to teach in librarian school, I would have that book taught to every person in my classroom. Because what it tells me is this how we begin the process of using the system of democracy as a facade. But in essence, we are still lords and dictators over our people. So having said this, we have to ask the incoming administration, are you ready to move us? Don't forget Monrovia is Africa's oldest municipality, founded 1835, passed by an act of legislation 1854, had the first mayor who happened to have been a medical doctor, Dr. James A. Brown. We had a beautiful system set up. But what went wrong? History matters. And it behooves all of us. And I like the way that the face put it. If this incoming administration think that we voted it in power in order to just be like the sedition did for George Weah, it is no, and no. It is time that incoming President Walker think in a modern sense of what it means to share power with cities, so that these things that we are listing, the fire issues, the issue of the environmental degradation, it may deal with the locals, so that they can start using the local communities to begin the process of moving forward towards the central government. So in the end, you don't run to be a lawmaker without any experience, because what you end up having is you now become lord over the people. So you want to take everything you see in the instrument of democracy, but it is not a democracy, it's a facade. So we will hold Omen Barker, we'll help him, we'll pray for these things. Thank God some of us do not need a job to do this. We are willing to help through private-public partnership or through the public sphere. Whatever way it works, Nigeria must get better than what it is today.
Mr. Jones, you are one of the people who always talk about small government. You talk about the salary too high for government officials. The lawmakers are paying themselves to the tune of $10,000 to $15,000 on a monthly basis. You talked about the $650,000 budget for the inauguration. This will surprise you that the lawmakers are saying that from that $650,000, they need $80,000 to $90,000 to clean the Capitol building. This is your house. I mean, this is where you work. If you can clean your own office, the Capitol, you are asking the chair of the inaugural committee to give you $90,000 to help prepare the Capitol before the president takes the oath of office. What is this?
Yeah, look, I'm happy that this is a wonderful panelist, because every time I go on a rampage on Liberians, they say, "Oh, who?" I mean, I talk about the recycled politician, I talk about the inept, the corrupt politicians in Liberia, and people just think that Liberia are just 120 people. Okay, there are thousands of Liberians all around the world, including look at these people, PhD and professional people, and I resent the fact that people feel that they are not entitled to work in the government. I'm entitled to work in my government. The government doesn't belong to Amara Kone, Burma Kamara, and the corrupt people. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you about working anywhere in the world. I can, but it shouldn't be an entitlement for a certain group of people, tribal people, political people. It should be for everybody. Okay, so yes, I want to work in my government. I want to work in my city. I want to help, and so is every Liberian. But I don't think paying me even $10,000 or $7,000 a month, when people there are making $60 on average, have to send their children to school, have to feed their families. There's no social services in the country. I don't think that's fair. It's not commensurate with the country's economy. You got a $4 billion economy. Mali, economy is 19 billion. Somalia, 10 billion. When will we even catch up with these people? Mali, I'm not talking about, South America. And we have no investment in education, no investment in industries to hire young people. And the only investment we have that in Darius Didion, Young Likanga, what you call Joseph Burkhardt, these are the problems. These are the people. They ran the government the way it is. And we come out, we elect them. If somebody has been in government for all these years, somebody like Amar Kone, where you were Minister of Finance, there was ghosts on the payroll the years you were there. And then Joseph Burkhardt comes, basically corruption, even more loosely, 3 times more corruption. And Joseph Burkhardt, in all his lack of wisdom, will come and say, I want to see Amar Kone to come on the transitional team. Are you running other educated people in Liberia? Are you running other financial people in Liberia? That's the problem in Liberia. So, I agree with my brother first. Look, the United Kingdom, they changed 6 prime minister, elected prime minister in 6 years' time. Nobody should wait for 6 years. It's part of democracy that if the people are not served, they should call on the resignation, no vote of confidence in whether it's the president, whether it's the legislature. Liberians must wake up. Other countries are moving forward. Like I said, if Mali are in a military government, they have war in Mali, their economy can be 19 billion. Then where's Liberia going? We can't even grow 5% because we have the same people. I would take even no government is perfect. There's corruption everywhere, everywhere. But they are not only corrupt, they are incompetent. The John Malu, the vice president, there's the mayor inauguration. He doesn't even have a website to communicate. That small TV got to communicate for him. They've been 2 months now, you win election. They haven't even put a cabinet together. You've been sitting down for 5 years in Liberia, you want to be president. And you don't know who will be your finance minister? Shouldn't your finance minister, your commerce minister be working with the ongoing government? That's how incompetent this man is. I'm sorry if it offends anyone. But the children are suffering. We have lived our lives. We have careers. But you have a whole generation that's going to turn to Zoko and we should wait 6 more years. Why? Because they're your tribal man or they're your party. Think about the greater good of the country and let's start changing people.
Thank you.
Monster and Darius Didion is the senator. What has he done? They placed it dirty, all the noise he was making. He's incompetent.
Thank you.
That's what they put on uncover politics, and good people cannot come to permanence in Liberia because of the corruption.
Thank you. Thank you, Jones. Well, Mrs. Brooks and Reverend George, I don't want you to take my word for it. I think the chair of the inaugural committee said the guys at the Capitol, the legislature, was asking for $80,000 to $90,000. Let's see if we have the clip here so you can listen for yourself.
And that is the seat of our government. Yet toilets do not work. Wow. Yes. Water is not flowing through that building. And, it's deserted, is that what you're saying? Abandoned? Yeah, I would say that even though their presence in the building continues, but how does the legislature sit down and toilets are ruined that they now have to be replaced? Almost $80,000-$90,000 of our budget has to now go into the legislature to refurbish and make the building presentable?
Mrs. Lexi Brooks Roberts.
Yeah. It's beyond understanding. Improvement is the word. Every time, and it goes back to history, as Dr. Gay said. People who do not remember their history will continue to repeat the same problems. Our country is dying. Right by us, Cote d'Ivoire. I just went to a kick-off. When you see the infrastructure of Cote d'Ivoire, you don't have it, you don't want to compete with other people. And just like they said, where does the money come from? When you have staffers crying to get paid. That Capitol building has been nasty. I've seen people reporting from there where either the visitors go around and touch the outside of the building. It's disgusting. So I can imagine the inside that in this 21st century, people, you have staffers to go draw water to flush. Come on, what are you talking about? People want to be proud of Liberia, man. Why is it that everything like this, everything that that people have come from abroad, they study in these, I mean, the educational level, those of us here, we can't even afford all of us because we are running families, doing other things. And that's not an excuse for me not getting, other people not getting the education to be doctors. But what do you learn? Is that you just go in the classroom. I heard someone say that the other day, cram and come and say, "Oh, I'm a doctor. Hire me." What can you implement? What can you do? I stated, Magafoli did that. He said, you know, and that's from working, looking in, from being outside, looking in. So when he got the opportunity, he said, "Why do we need all this money to go do inauguration when we can, fix our hospital? We can fix this, fix that." That's what we're looking for from this experienced leader. The people that talked about his experience. He's been in the government. He knows this. But you see, when you experience, it's like you know it all. So right there, when I get in office, the day God bless me with this is what I would do. This is what I would do. You have those things already lined up.
Thank you.
But I say that you don't even have your key people. You're going to recycle these same people, and the same people who mess up the government and then they run away. Then when they come back, we hail them.
Thank
There's
you,
a problem with that.
Reverend George.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm reading our audience and some of the comments they are making. It speaks to the mindset. I think Dr. Fix mentioned it right, that we need a paradigm shift, okay, for Liberia. Now, people who we are speaking for on their behalf, if you listen to the comments some of them are making, 650,000 is nothing. And some of them, they don't even have bicycles. Some of them don't even have electricity in their houses. They're doing candle and they're commenting. You see, this is the problem that we have. But let me say this though. I don't know why we are excuse for lack of better word, romanticizing with something that I consider to be a euphoria. This is Joseph Boakai, and this is not campaign attack, this is reality. Joseph Boakai, during his time for 12 years, it's on record, his office received $2 million a year, times 12 at 24 million. Okay? Joseph Boakai, on one of the interviews, said right after election that he was living alone. He was broke, living alone.
Remember now when Boycott and Madam Sally came to power from the get-go, they just didn't start making $2 million.
Hold on. That's not the point. I'm saying it's on record. I don't know when they started, but for the 12 years, we can check the records. If you want to fast check me, $2 million every year times 12, that's $24 million. They're making an overall point. Okay. I'm not blaming Boakai for that. I listened to the chairman for the inauguration and is complaining about toilets, bathroom broken, and they want $90,000. Why would they want $90,000? When in the first place, the committee can't tell her what it would do with $650,000. Why the old man can't go to FRICA Baptist Church and get inaugurated and save all that money? No. Yeka Koluba 2 days ago complained about the old man that he went somewhere, I know Cocoa or someplace, and promised 50 black arrests and 100,000 Liberian dollar. The man who Stanton P. by the other person, they have been
$10 million Liberian dollars, which is equivalent to 53,200 bags of rice.
Thank you. There's a man who, during the campaign, Stanton P. Ballet said he was supporting him through Henry Costa. He has not been inaugurated yet, and he had made this kind of donation. Where's the money coming from? Look, we don't make mockery of Liberia here. So these guys look at it and say, we are the legislature here. I'm coming on them. If you're going to use 650,000, then you'll give us 90,000. It's the same game. Let me tell you, Ellen did that when Ellen came to this country, 2005, at the U.S. Peace Institute. The clip is on C-SPAN. I was there. I asked questions. We were online. When Ellen King brought all her group, Dr. Sawyer, Dr. Anthony Sawyer, Dr. Family, she was flanked by all these people. Guess what? Dr. Crystal, who was the university president when I was a spirit at the time, they all came here. Ellen took all of them, and they were paying them extra budget from World Bank money. When the legislator looked at it and said, okay, if you're paying these people extra money, then we're going to raise our salary. This is what we have on our head today. Somebody making $10,000 in Liberia. For what? We are looking at Joseph Barker, and we give him the benefit of the doubt, according to Dr. Fix. But if this salary discrepancy is not addressed, Liberia will fail again on a Barker. That the first line, this salary discrepancy is too much. $10,000. And the ordinary worker is making $50, $60, $75. That's witchcraft.
Dr. Face?
These are the same people who receive $30,000 for legislative engagement, quote unquote, to go for vacation, but their toilets are not working. It's a shame.
Who's next? Is it Dr. Face?
Yeah, you asked me, and I just want to respond directly to Victor Logan or whoever who's saying that the reason why people are talking is because they've never worked in government. Oh no, I've worked in government and at one of the highest levels of government too. And let me just tell you one of the major contributions I've had to your government. Okay, when just before Ellen came to power under Judy Bryant, they came up with a documentation that was used as a basis. It was supposed to be used as a basis to bring in expatriates into Liberia to help to redevelop the country. Okay. And that document, after Ellen and them worked on it, was passed to all of the ministries and agencies to come out and make some contribution, make some editing on that document. And the official response of the Ministry of Information came from my pen. And what was my argument on behalf of the Ministry of Information? I'm saying this thing publicly, and I want to be challenged. An official position of the Ministry of Information was that there was no precedent and that they should rather get Liberians, because then you'll be killing two birds with one stone. What you'll be doing is that you'll be bringing Liberians who've never gone to the country for decades, and then that will be an opportunity for them to reinvest in their own country. It's called GMAP. The program was called GMAP. And because of people like me, Liberians came from America because that idea was embraced and got thousands and thousands of dollars on a monthly basis. So one part of the idea was true. The only part of the idea that was not true and I did not contemplate was the possibility that people will be using the money to pay their student loans back in America. Okay, so don't come and get on this platform because you don't know anything about people that work, that are talking here, to say they don't know anything about government. And I've worked higher, way higher than that. And it's because of the corruption, the stench of the corruption. That's why I walked away. So don't come here and say that, oh, the people that are talking, they don't know what they're talking, they don't know anything about. No. A lot of people here speak. I work as a journalist during a regime of
just living
so
alone.
I understood the politics at that time. Okay, I just need you to understand that what these people are doing, trying to, in the midst of this, after George Weah had ripped the country apart for 6 years, and this guy came up with a policy of arrest. And the first thing he's arresting, the first signal for me that this government may not be on the right track is when Joseph Walker came into this country and stayed 3 weeks in America. And then the only thing we saw was this roundtable conference with a bunch of low-level people. And the next thing we saw was Yoni CEO trying to measure him to sew some suits. That's not serious government. That's not serious contemplation for the kind of problems that the country is faced with. What are you talking? Don't come and be writing stuff here that you don't know. If you want to ask people whether they know about whether they've been in government, ask them directly. When I worked in government, I worked with people with the likes of Amara Kone and the rest of them. All of them know me. All of them. So don't come to be talking like what you don't. A lot of people here worked in government.
Thank you, record. Okay, folks, if you just joining us, this is Ashford Garley Live on Brace Radio Africa, Brace TV Africa. We're coming your way from the Twin Cities of Minnesota. And my woman is telling me baby, that Kosu you now wear again tonight. When people take you seriously when you're in Kosu and they're wearing t-shirt, and when we started wearing Kosu 2014, 2015, people would say, well, what I should be in house to be wearing Kosu. Years later, COVID came. Now everybody wants to wear kosu. Even the ones that used to abuse us for wearing kosu, now they're all wearing kosu now. Image is the key. Where looks can take you, money can take you there. In the
That's right.
meantime, folks, we didn't bring the political soccer game today because we had to do some serious technical repair behind the scene and stuff like that. Well, enough of the fire and the boycott. Alleged has spent it. Let us talk about the nominees for the social justice and the LRA, the Commissioner General. With less than 2 weeks to inauguration, President Weah nominates Musa Dane. Musa Dane, who her colleagues uh, argue that he stole a diamond, and according to one of his professional colleagues, that Musa Dane said to him, "By March, I will be on the bench, so the diamond question will not come to me." Even though I was justice minister when the three missing boys got killed, I don't know why that was calling me. When three missing boys got killed, and even though I was justice minister when George Weah myself said that the people were making out on Broad Street, that's how they died. The EPS officer that was killed in Nimba, according to Musa and George Weah, he shot himself 3 times in the head. The auditors, the Batin Yuswa, Mabudu Yimpan, now the auditor, the commissioner general of the LRA. But George Weah appoints Musa Deng to go for confirmation to become Associate Justice. In the meantime, Thomas Dolan is not cold yet. He's not been buried, but George Weah replaces Thomas Dolan. Let us begin with Dr. Fisk on this one. Not Dr. I'm sorry, Dr. Chuchu Jones on this one. Please unmute the device.
These are the things that when the U.S. wonder, and my brother was talking about democracy, it's a joke in Africa. Because you sanction, what is his name? Bill Traore, he wins election. You sanction McGill, he wins election. What does that tell you? You understand? It tells you that there's a flaw. The people do not respect democracy in Africa, especially in West Africa. You have to try something else. I don't know what it is, but these countries are getting worse. The statistics, the Human Development Index, everything is worse. And usually when that happens, it turns into, problems, violence, and all kinds of stuff. And to speak to the Musa Deng, you see, maybe there's a parable for you guys who go to a parable can help me. But, when somebody who can't hear, they will feel. You see what happened to some of the officials in the past administrations, whatever Tower administration. They don't know when, enough is enough. They don't know when enough is enough. They will keep pushing the people, keep pushing the people, keep pushing the people. Or their things blow apart, all of frustration and poverty. Then they will wonder and lose everything. And that's what's happening in Liberia right now. They keep pushing the people. They're testing the people limits. People have nothing. This man, forget about all the kidding and all the other stuff, which are very important issues. The man's a criminal. That weird administration is a criminal according to the United States Embassy. Their statement on the corruption in Liberia. This is the man who's supposed to fight corruption. Where does Liberia rank on the corruption index? At the bottom. But yet he won't go on the Supreme Court. So again, the same thing. Look, and just to say, I don't like to just talk about the problem. The fact remains that Liberia has to be completely, it's a failed state. You have to start from all over because the people, the players in there, right? are the ones who making a decision, are the ones who on the Supreme Court, are the ones in the House of Representatives. You are not going to get anything tangible. The same people, the worker, they destroy Liberia. They stole the money from Liberia. They embezzle it. When you pay yourself $2 million or $1 million in a country that is the 7th poorest country in the world, you are responsible for the lack of education. You are responsible for the lack of progress. So even when George Weah came there, who could blame George Weah? You were there for 12 years. You have 15 billion in contracts from the United. All our resources gone. The early administration, the same Conan, the same Capoeira, they pay themselves. They're sending their children to school in America. They're building houses in America, buying houses in America. Liberia becomes where they go and take the money and they bring it. And children there, the public schools there don't even have benches. The university don't even have a correct lab. The state is failed. And the people have to see that and stop the politics thing. And my brother, I can tell you, once you speak up the truth in Liberia, the people will hate you. Liberian people don't like the truth. They are partisan and they are tribalistic. There are very few people. They can see Boga doing wrong. They will support him. They can see we are doing wrong. They're only because they don't have no moral conscience. They say the Christian and Muslim people, but they don't have no dignity. So you just forget about that. They're not once you speak truth in Liberia, they will say everything but the right thing about you. So me, I used to it. Boga is corrupt. He should not be president. So is Weah. So is Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And someday, if Liberia was serious, these people would be in jail.
But Alex, you can't just get up and say Boyka is corrupt when you have no data or stocks to show us, my man. Come on now.
The man collected embezzlement. What's the definition of embezzlement? Embezzlement is when you are in charge of something and you take it for yourself. If your office receives more than the amount that the Liberian people are making, for instance, if Joe Biden goes today and start paying himself and the Congress start paying himself $5 million, that's corruption. If you're part of that government that's corrupt, you are corrupt too. You can't tell me what Joe Boga is sitting there talking about, or our not at the driver's seat. That's foolishness. You know why? Because what he's saying that you have to be president in Liberia before you do the right thing. That the vice president should have no responsibility. The finance minister have no responsibility because they're not president. You look at that kind of idea. You are responsible for the people 77. You have a budget. What do you do with it? So I can say, yeah, Joseph Boyka, Ellen Johnson, according to all the indexes, the Liberia Corruption Index, it shows Liberia is one of the worst corrupt countries. And who are the people who are running it? That was Joe Boyka. So they're corrupt. Not the ordinary people. That's where I get my facts from.
I think it's Dr. Fix next, right? Am I correct?
Okay, sure.
Okay, go ahead, Fix.
Okay, so when it comes to this whole thing about we are appointing of Musa Dean, you have to see it within a broader context, a love context. Just before that whole issue came up, there was a gasoline truck that exploded in Liberia, and 50 citizens instantly lost their lives in the most gruesome manner. And up until now, or at least up until recently, there was no day of national mourning set aside. That is how irrelevant Liberian people are in the eyes of the politicians. That's how bad it is in the country. Okay, so what? So many people have died because the government failed. Okay, because if you had a functional government, once that truck captured, you have had police presence in that area to quarantine that area for purposes of safety. It did not happen. 50 people lost their lives and nothing was done. Okay, and you have people on the internet even playing fun out of it. Okay, and that is how low people look those politicians. They're only interested in the people because why? There's a time that comes that there must be vote. So the problem of Liberia is not educated versus non-educated. The problem of Liberia is patriotic versus non-patriotic. And as far as I'm concerned, Liberia has never really had a patriotic president that has led that country. None of them, including Tolbert. Okay, because if you look at the country, you look at the country from day one. Well, I try to look at it from 1920s and 50s when Liberia had iron ore and rubber. That is when we could at least do something for our own selves. If you look at that period up until now, all of these guys have now worked in the interest of the country. Okay. Up until now, has Joseph Boakai spoken about the possibility of getting rid of that crap that George Weah did to be giving his wife Liberian people money to build Jamaica?
But gentlemen, you acting like Alex now. I asked you a question about the about appointing Musa Dane and what do you call it, and we're going to something else.
No, but I've addressed the question. I've addressed the question in a broader context. What I've said is that it doesn't make sense that Mr. Weah will be talking about appointing Mr. Musa Dean at a time that there were other critical issues that needed to be addressed, and he pretended as if to say they were non-existent. So I already addressed that issue. So then I just tried to do an extension of that by talking about, the de-emphasis of the public interest, which is the bigger story there. Okay, and because he's trying to go after personal interest, he said, okay, fine, let me put someone who's going to be a legal buffer to prevent people from coming after me. That's what it's all about. Okay, so I'm just using that same thing to say, okay, fine. So yes, a situation where you had George Weah unprecedentedly having a situation where he's giving millions of dollars to his wife that she then used to build Jamaica, taking food from the mouths of children in Liberia. Has Joseph Boakai talked about addressing that? So these are the kind of issues. That's what I keep saying. Democracy, Western style democracy, has failed Liberia. I'm not concerned about other countries. I'm concerned about Liberia.
I think Boakai is waiting to get inaugurated, and he will start to tackle.
Well, it's not about getting inaugurated. You see,
he was just elected president.
In Liberia,
we can have two presidents.
What we say is that the hint to the wise is quite sufficient. Okay, you begin to give signals about what you intend to do, but what you are doing now. Okay, when you start to have a budget of $650,000, that's over $500,000 in a country that is that deplorable, it tells me that your arrest plan has been arrested somewhere else, and you have to go and reclaim it. That's what it tells me.
Thank you. Let me go to Mrs. Roberts, then Reverend George.
Thank you. Not a legal scholar, but I did listen to Mr. Verdier, Mr. Verdier, and he said constitutionally there shouldn't be an appointment if there is no emergency. What's the emergency? It's a tactic to block, have someone, his eyes out there, even when he's gone, and all of the things that will be said or will be planned, legally. He wants to have someone there. It's a tactic to have. It's his defense after all of the bankrupt of the country. He wants to have someone there who will do what he has done for the 6 years he's been under George Weah, mute. I've been told that Musa Dean was a great attorney at law before becoming the justice minister. So he has the potential. He has just chosen to not do anything because it is his people. But he fails to realize that justice is blind. He took an oath to protect the country. And it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. You listen to the details of the case. You apply the law. And he didn't do that in his 6 years. Why do we need him? Why is he putting him into someone else's administration? That should be the current or the elected president's position. There's no emergency. There's nothing that needs to be done so urgently that he needs to make that. What he should have been doing is a day of mourning. He should have been making sure the budget is approved. He should be making sure that all of the ministries are accountable to the transitional team, and those are the things that maybe cleaning his office if he had one. Okay, but
Okay.
it is wrong. It is deceptive. It's undemocratic, and he chooses to pick out some of the strategic things that smart people do, even though he has not done anything smart in his under his term. But that is a smart move that people make to cover their butts. The former president Donald Trump did such thing, and he brags of it that he appointed good people on the bench that will protect him when he's doing the bad things he has done. So that's one good thing that
Thank you.
George we have picked up. And no, he
Thank-
is not
Thank you, Mrs. Roberts.
competent, and he's not right to be appointing a
Ashford,
judge.
can I
at his
just ask my
exit.
panelists one question?
No, Reverend George hasn't spoken yet. And Dr. Gay, Dr. Gay, are you still there?
Who's that?
Dr. Gay, are you still with us? Somebody is saying that the platform tonight is not balanced because you bring folks from the same political background. That's not true, Max. They are not all from the same political background. So I will you please take heed to that. Go ahead, Reverend George.
Yeah, but I think I'm glad you addressed Mark on that, because even if we are seeing like that, my position on this Musa Dane's appointment, and I think Wolokoli to replace, I don't want someone wanted to replace Thomas Donald, a dear friend I know very personally, and Rosa Liberia, may his soul rest in peace. Look, I maintain my position, gentlemen. Sometimes there comes a time we have to agree to disagree. I do not believe Georgia is doing anything wrong with those appointments. And here's my reason. You see, elections have consequences that affect strike on the nail. Democracy, the minute we find out that democracy will not work in Africa, the better Africa will wake up. Okay. When you elect people, you're giving them so much state power. There's nothing unconstitutional about the president and making appointments, whether in his last days. This is why we shouldn't have gotten a full bottle from nowhere in the first place and put him in a marshal and give him all the state powers. Okay, it's all political ball game. And I said on this platform, the simplest and most elementary definition of politics is managing interest. Whether it's in the West, whether it's in the East or in the South, politics is managing interest. If you are the president, outgoing president, and you have your last minute appointment to make, you will make it, and it is legal. There's nothing illegal about appointing those people. So the next time that people vote, we should know who we are putting in that mansion. It's not just winning election. There's so much power you are giving unto them. You see? So we got to fix it. Now the idea of Thomas Doe now pass, and we always pass. But all these things are sentimental view. There's nothing legal. There's nothing undemocratic about the president. Look, here in this country, this Merrick Garland today, who was Attorney General, in the last few days, when the Republican had a power in the Senate, what did they do? They held on to his nomination until Obama left office. That's politics. Because it was not in the Republican Party interest to have Merrick Garland on the Supreme Court. They sabotaged his nomination, and President Trump were able to fill the position. There was nothing illegal about it. It was all politics. Let's take a backseat sometime. We don't like this guy. This guy's a buffoon, but he is doing exactly what amount of power the Laprimpo gave him for 6 years. He is exploiting it to his interest, and everything is legal. Now let me end on this whole democracy thing. I visited on my last East African trip, I visited Rwanda. We drove from Burundi to Rwanda. And from the border, from Burundi border, we drove from Tanzania, Burundi to Rwanda. From the border to the capital, Kigali, clean. No dirt in the street. I'm not talking about the capital. From the border, I got pictures, I got video of the border town to the capital, clean. Indeed, Rwanda is the cleanest country, and Kigali is the cleanest city. Why? I want to link that to democracy. Have you ever heard about any legislature meeting in Rwanda? The only person here is Paul Kagame. They're literally running a monarchy from a government. The man is considered a king. Everybody is working. And Brother Alex, why I was there, as God was having the experience. The Saturday I was there, me and this ASHFORD place. The Saturday I was there was a day of national cleanup campaign. Since that guy took power, it's consistent. They call it in their language, they call it Moganda. The last Saturday every month is not throughout Rwanda. Every businesses are closed for 3 hours, from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. You can't open anything. You got to clean all your surrounding. In fact, they divide the city into villages. Every village was better. Where I was hosted, I became part of that village. We took part in the cleanup campaign. That's what we're talking about. That's not democracy there. They have a kind of mixed democracy and monarchy form of government in Rwanda, and it's working for the people. The city is clean. People are in order. Everybody is contributing. So I agree with that 100%. Democracy has failed Africa, and we are still dreaming a white man's dream. I'm sorry to say that. Thank you.
You know, Reverend, I just said earlier, there's a private conversation that he was extremely busy. Something must have prompted him to come on the show tonight.
Play chess.
And what did you hear? What did you miss, Reverend Added? Welcome to the show, my brother.
Well, I just want to say thank you to you wonderful panelists. It's a pleasure being here. Happy New Year to all of our wonderful audience. My apology for being late. Had to attend to some issues in preparation of my trip to Liberia. But I'm highly impressed by the discussions. I was quite frankly intrigued by the comments of Dr. Fisk, that what he is seeing the Honorable Joseph Boyka doing is quite discouraging. But I certainly want to build on the statement that Reverend George made. He stated very clearly that, you know, where he went, he saw a collaborative effort of the people working for the greater good. I just want to remind this panel and the viewing public that when we looked for Joseph Boyka, what we saw in him is a leader of inspiration, as evidenced by the fact that we see a collaborative effort of Liberians cleaning up our city that has been dirty for almost 6 years under this past leadership. Neither here nor there, let me address the issue of Reverend George. While it is true the president certainly has the political right to appoint, make no mistake that the legislature has stopped sitting. Analysts of legal minds have stated that it is true he can appoint who he wants. But when you call the legislature back to make an appointment under such circumstance, constitutionally, he's out of order. And for him to put the situation in order, there has to be a state of emergency according to Article 86 of our Constitution. So the calling of them back to do these confirmations of these individuals is a violation of the Constitution because there is no state of emergency that he has declared. This is what the legal minds are reporting. So, you know, let's be clear. Yes, it's true. I will stop short of insulting our president, George Weah, because he still is our president. But those are just issues I just wanted to address on the fact that, we don't misrepresent the powers of the president in keeping with our Constitution. So I want to encourage Dr. Fisk not to be discouraged. This government is certainly serious. The fact that General Joseph Boyka came to these United States, it became clear that they outlined precisely what he was coming to do. But make no mistake, and let's be clear, if he went to the doctor after a tremendous campaign and the doctor said, hey, get some bed rest, what's wrong with that as an individual? Our president currently took 48 days out of the country. Do you know whether or not he saw the doctor? We don't know. So we still hold him, quite frankly, in high esteem by virtue of the fact that we currently see the execution of the arrest policy, AREST, sanitation, as is currently implementing in the city of Monrovia. And I'm certainly proud of what is happening now, even though he has not yet taken the helm of power. Thank you.
Well, Reverend Allen, I want to say congratulations. I think your hard work paid off now that you are going as guest of the president-elect to the inauguration. I think
One is correction. I'm not going as guest of the president.
You go for your appointment as foreign minister.
listen, well, that too.
I like that. You guys funny. I like that. I like that.
That too. People have taken to the social media platform, including me, including Honorable Yeka Koluva. He said, first of all, the president-elect said he was broke. He was living on loan. Following the Toyota incident, I mean, nothing wrong with the gesture, but 50,000 US dollars, 200 bags of rice. The question now is, where did he get the money from? And our constitution clearly states about how you get gifts and all those sort of things. Uh, I believe the rest of the guys want to hear from you, and then they can also respond. I will extend the time if the need be. You may speak now.
Okay, sure. So actually, there are several things that we can speak to. So the Code of Conduct, Section 1, 3, and 20, it says public official means any elected or appointed person holding public office and having duties relating to serving powers of government. Any person elected and having duties of serving power. So clearly, the Honorable Joseph Boyka has been elected, but he has not assumed the duties of serving power. So please understand this fact, right? He hasn't assumed the duties of serving powers. So the question becomes, does the code apply to him? Now, in the context of optics, well, you've been claiming that you were living on loans. But for Liberia to live on loans, that means you have assets. Because you can't just walk to the bank and ask them to give you loans. So make no mistake, he's been president for what, 12 years? And people understood living on loans to mean abject poverty. Living on loans to mean, he has no asset, he has no money. But for a country like Liberia, which is a cash economy, we have a different type of credit system. To be able to enjoy funds and live, you got to have some assets. Then the question becomes, were his assets working for him? He also has a foundation. Is the foundation helping? How did he get the ferry for Grand Bassa, River Cess, and parts of River G? How did he manage to, help the children in Bumming and other places by securing assets for them to facilitate their education? Use his contacts. Is it possible that, this could be the reality? So yes, the public optics may be one of somebody who said he was living on loan. I live in America. I live in America. As I conclude, I live in America. As I conclude, I live on loans in America, and I'm quite comfortable. But I live on loans. My house is on loan. I'm still paying student loans, and not to tell you several other things that I'm living on, in spite of all that we're doing in Liberia. Thank you.
It is okay to put a spin on this all you want when Henry Costa, who was once one of the closest people to the president-elect, said that the president depended on $3,000 a month from Stanton Witherspoon to survive. But yeah, you are now telling us that the man had foundation, he had his farm, he was giving the ferry to people. Living alone does not mean that you can't afford certain amount of money. So you are trying to justify why he has some money saving. That's why you were able to pay that $50,000 to the victims in Tolota and the 200 bag of rights. I will go to Alex.
So quite frankly, I'm not. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let me go to Alex, and then you can, because you listen when you took notes, and then you can.
That too.
Okay.
I mean, welcome. It's good that we have some balance. It's clear that you are a supporter or representative of Joseph Boyka or the Unity Party. Is that correct?
I sympathize with his vision.
Okay, great. So I don't want to be on a lot. Now, you mentioned that Joseph Boakai is a leader, and he displayed his leadership and whatnot. Joseph Boakai is the head of the Unity Party, the political leader of the political party. The Unity Party officials have been some of the most corrupt in our country, including one point Vani Shema and the Ellen Johnson City, of whom John Molu claimed 3 times more corrupt. Now, my question to you: yes, a man I have shown no leadership as an opposition leader. He cleaned no city, including the place he lived, for 5 years, right? Everybody in his government, including people that he endorsed, people that Vani Samakar, who was convicted as a criminal for fraud, was stealing over $1.2 million, according to the court record. Went all the way to the Supreme Court. Joseph Boakai endorsed this criminal. How can you sit here as a reverend, I think you are, someone who should speak the truth, someone who should be impartial, support a man who sympathizes with the likes of Bani Samakar, Amar Khan, and people who were accused, and in fact bring these people in his transition? How can you call somebody a leader who has presided over an entity, the Unity Party, that in the government, House of Representatives, I think they got several members, House of Senate, several members, in the previous government? What leadership has he shown in the last 5 years as leader of a political party? How has he fought corruption within his own party? Please help the Liberian people understand what your definition of leadership means.
Thank you kindly. Before I answer that question, can I ask you a question? Are you a Christian? Are you a Christian?
I don't identify with any particular religion. I identify with I'm a universal.
Okay, so you are universal. So that means you have some level of moral compass, right? So
well, yes.
If I were to ask you a question, then you instantly right. So my Christianity isn't defined by my title. It's defined certainly by the light of the Holy Spirit, having been saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost. So what your statement intended to do is to provide an unverified conjecture with the conclusion that I'm lying, inconsistent with my title as a reverend, when in fact you don't know who Joseph Boakai is in terms of his accomplishment as an individual and his leadership ability. So I'll ask you this question: do you know what the One Health program is?
No. Now let me just say this. Let me
hold
just say this.
Hold on.
Let me ask a question.
Alex, let him hear him out. I think you go ahead.
Yeah. So the question you asked.
No, Alex, hold on.
Okay.
That just continue.
Right. So certainly you just stated that you don't know what the One Health program is. The One Health program, my brother, which I don't want to go back in campaign mode, is the program that Joseph Boakai managed for the last 12 years. Under that program, we expanded in the area of agriculture. Under that program, Liberia, through the FAO Jacques Diop in 2008, went to Liberia and gave Ellen Johnson Sirleaf the award. Highly impressed about the progress Liberia was making in the area of agriculture. The One Health program, my friend, led to the construction of the hospital in Nimba County that brought the MRI and several other machines to Liberia. That program alone attracted over $30 million US dollars. The One Health program also had to do with the youth empowerment, over $50 million scheme for youth empowerment under the Ellen-led government. And who was managing that program? Joseph Imam Boakai. Don't believe me? Talk to Dr. Talbot Yinswa.
Do you have a website for the program?
So what I'm sharing with you when you talk about
no,
is he
because you asked me, I'll give you the floor. You asked me a question about public charity. Okay, we live in an intellectual society. You're telling me that Joseph Boakai ran an organization with not a website, not a financial report. Only you know it, and you expect me to know it. Where's the website so I can go there and verify these things you're talking about?
Thank you kindly. I want you to take your phone right now,
gentlemen,
and Google One Health program. It will tell you when it was launched under the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government. No. Hear me out. You ask for evidence. Don't believe me? Take your cell phone now. Any of you on this panel, Google One Health Program Liberia. So unfortunately, you didn't know that. So I'll take that as an humble education to you. Not to mention the fact that he has a foundation. Are you aware that he's donated ferry to the people of Grand Bassa County? Are you aware?
The article of incorporation was canceled.
Pardon me?
The article of incorporation for Joseph Boakai Foundation was canceled. Is that the one you're referring to?
No, I want you to go on Joseph Boakai Foundation, and you will see a full listing of all of the activities he's doing in Liberia and continue to do. And I also want you to research for your knowledge the One Health program under Madam Ellen Johnson's Shirley administration, of which he was the vice president. And you will see when it was launched and how it's impacted. Not only that, you have a witness, Dr. Talbot Yinswa, that we often refer to as the czar on our medical issues in Liberia.
On the website, I don't see anywhere where Joseph Boakai is the head of the One Health program.
Okay, gentlemen.
You just saw that, right?
But he's not the head. There's nothing here to suggest Joseph Boakai is
Gentlemen,
the head, as you claim.
let us not make this show that
he was the one that was managing that program. He's the one that managed the program. I mean, I'm just sharing that with you because you asked where he has led in terms of his leadership.
I asked you about his political leadership running the Unity Party.
That is his political leadership. The One Health program was under the Ellen-led administration.
No, that's not what I asked you for. That's not what I asked you. He was the head of the Unity Party. Unity Party had the most corrupt senators and representatives for the last 5 years. They accomplished nothing in Liberia that any Liberian citizen can point to. Joseph Boakai was the head of that party. That's why I want you to speak.
Gentlemen, can we stick to the issues?
The moderator to guide the conversation.
Let us not
the fact that he
again,
gave,
gentlemen.
is the
Let us
issue.
not make this
When he said he didn't have money.
a dialogue between Idatus and
Yeah, but you got to move it around, Mr. Moderator.
Listen, I said my piece before you came over. You're moving around. Yeah, I beg you. Oh, go to Mrs. Lexi Bruce Roberts now, and Dr. Fisk. Yeah, Mrs. Roberts.
Yeah. Thank you. Welcome, Reverend Addy. Thank you for your explanation. However, I know during the campaign trail we talked about Mr. Boakai. So not having enough money, not even to do the campaign, people had to help, which is normal. But to say a few weeks into his presidential election, where he hasn't even been seated, to get $50,000 to one situation, and we have people coming out that saying there's more to that, that's paid to play. Just the fact, one of the other issues that I have a problem with, to hear Stanton, let me call Boakai. I will call them. I will get on the phone. The same exact thing he did with the CDC government until they fell out when he didn't get his way. This is exactly what's being exemplified. So we are as a people, we don't have to support him, but we see things that don't look right. And, when it doesn't look right, we have the right to speak on it, just like we did with the last government. So where did he get all of a sudden get all this asset from to be giving out $50,000 and beggar rights? The woman who is the current vice president didn't even give that much money. So we want to hold him accountable. And so, in your explanation, I don't think you're doing him justice by doing that. If anything, his spokespeople should do, because you're only a sympathizer. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Fisk.
Yeah, before I say what I want to say, I just want to ask a quick question to the Reverend that just requires a yes or no answer. Are you aware, or is it true, that the Joseph Boakai transition team has a budget of $650,000 that's going to be spending for that process?
That's what I heard, that it's spending in the internet.
Okay, fine. So to some extent, that's an affirmative. Okay. So now we are talking, the backdrop to that is a country that has been financially ravished for the last 5.5, 6 years, and irresponsibly governed by George Weah. Okay, we sat on this very same platform and we were able to enumerate the instances of corruption against the interests of the Liberian people. Okay, and we saw how detrimental it has been, the reasons for which the people turned out en masse to give Weah a one-term presidency. I just want us, I just want you to help the public to understand or to help justify, given the situations that Liberians have found themselves coming out of or were hopeful to come out of, how it makes sense that Joseph Boyaka and the rest of his people will be coming over $650,000 budget. Okay, so that's one. Number two, you mentioned that Joseph Boyaka has done so many good things. One thing we also know Joseph Boyaka has done is to preside over that PL 480 that came into Liberia. And what we know about PL 480, for those who do not know, is that PL 480 led to the importation of U.S. parboiled rice into Liberia, where Liberian farmers in any position to compete against U.S. farmers? No, they were not, because U.S. farmers were mechanized. Liberian farmers were not. Okay, so the introduction of PL 480 into Liberia effectively decimated Liberian agriculture. And and Joseph Boyaka presided over that. And lastly, what I will say is that Liberia has never had an agriculture problem to an extent that it was decimated by U.S. crops to save U.S. farmers. Okay. Liberia has never had an agricultural problem. In fact, the farmers will grow surplus food. What Liberia has always had, which was not articulated by Joseph Boyaka, is that Liberia has had an agro-industrial problem. In other words, there are no factories in the country like most African countries. Okay, so the construction of factories so that the rice and other crops will be transformed into finished products, these are things that are absent all across not only Liberia, but most of Africa. So at the end of the day, you get people getting in ships to go abroad to go to do the same job that they could potentially do in Africa. And Mr. Boyaka has not addressed that yet. That's $650,000 who have actually constructed about 6 rice mills all across Liberia to create jobs. Help us to understand the discrepancies that I've just mentioned.
And that is just before you speak. I want to let the panel know that we are going to be out of here in 12 minutes. So please limit your answers to 1.5 minutes. And following that, we'll begin taking closing statements. And let me address Max. Max, just so you know, Dr. Fisk does not affiliate with the ANC, and so is Mr. Jones. Okay, Mrs. Roberts empathizes with the ANC and Reverend George. So when you see Fisk talk here, I mean, he talks about all sides. I mean, if you've been following, the same with Alice Jones. So don't come and say you have 4 people representing ANC against Reverend I. Please don't do that. Go ahead, Tanik.
Thank you kindly. So, oftentimes I would hear Dr. Fisk talk about the PL 480 with a misrepresentation. This project of 1960, instituted by the U.S. government, Richard Nixon, among others. You would see, quite frankly, that when the PL 480 went to Liberia, at the time we were a nation devastated, didn't have a full-fledged grown agriculture functioning. That proceeds were used to empower our Liberian farmers to produce country rice. Because of the PL 480, we were able to reduce the importation of rice. That was when Liberia, Lufat specifically, became the breadbasket. Through the PL 480, we were able to establish cooperative development like BCADP and several other institutions like the NIMA project. So for you to sit here, Dr. Fisk, and say that the Honorable Joseph Boyaka did not in any way, shape, or form preside over its leadership, that is utterly false. The records are there. We've debated that incessantly on this platform, wherein I provided facts in terms of by the By the late 70s, we were going to reduce the importation of rice by 38%. We were able to expand to over 5,000 acres of rice implantation under Joseph Boyka and his management and the policy of that Wilmar Talbot. So this happens to be a clear representation of the PL 480. And make no mistake, the PL 480 funding also helped to fund your army. It helped to subsidize your salaries. It helped facilitate the exportation of cocoa, coffee, and among several other things based on the proceeds. The facts are there. Go and read the report of John Compitella, then the Auditor General of West Africa under USAID. It's written in his report. Look at the U.S. Congress report, page 435, section C. Read all of that. You will see all of the information in those different reports. So when we come to speak, we bring the facts. I can understand the conjecture concerning the fact that, Mr. Joseph Boyka is not a political leader and how he's able to lead and so on and so on. We clearly see that before he started his office, come January 22nd, he started cleaning your city. A very evident demonstrable of the fact that arrest, specifically the S, sanitation, reflecting his ability to lead, to bring together. Look at the people who's cleaning the city, they're volunteers. Look at the people who's donating, they're volunteers. So when you talk about leadership, it's what we have in Joseph Boyka, and his vision certainly speaks to that reality. Thank you.
Okay, folks, listen, I want to say a big thanks to all of you. We're going to come back, circle back here again tomorrow night, same time, same place, but I will give you, each of you people now, just the 90 seconds to give us your closing statement as we press for time tonight. And then begin with Dr. George.
Reverend George.
Okay, Reverend. But when you got 3 master's degree, you going to doctor?
Yeah, but I think we didn't do justice to this issue. We talk about where Joseph Boyka got the $50,000 from and the 200 Beckel rice. Our brother here can insinuate it as though he got it from his charity or he got it from his boat that he get to Riverside. We really want to know. He hasn't answered that. And this is very disingenuous intellectually. We are talking about a specific issue here, and you are naming all the things that Boyka, charity. Idadu, can you speak to the fact specifically that his charity gave him those 200 Beckel rice, or the 50,000 that were taken from the ferry on the boat that he gave? Don't do that to our audience. If you don't know, you don't know. I mean, I will respect knowledge, but just congesting and gesticulation is not knowledge. We are talking about where he got the $50,000 from to donate. Let a representative come here and tell us that Mr. Boyka has not taken office. Mr. Boyka was supported throughout the election by the likes of Stanton Witherspoon and Koska. Suddenly, boom, he gets on the stage now. Through transitional period, he becomes this philanthropy that is giving $50,000, 200 Beckel rice, and you sit on the platform to say, well, maybe he got it from his charity. Maybe he got it from the ferry that he donated. Please don't do that to our audience. If you don't know, you don't know. Because this issue got to be drilled down, and the Liberian people need to know where he got this $50,000 from, where he got money, because this is a quid pro quo, they call it, pay to play. So it's not easy to play with. It's not going away now. Let me just close by saying thank you to our audience. I'm an ANC sympathizer. I don't hide that, like Mrs. Roberts as well. And others have their political persuasion. But we are still free to talk about Liberia, people. Let's be free to talk about Liberia. Let's be constructive. Let's accept all the criticism and the suggestions and the ideas that will move this country forward. And I applaud Dr. Face. He's been very neutral, sometimes hard on ANC, very hard on ANC, and hard on UP, a little bit hard, and very hammer on the outgoing administration. In fact, he introduced a lot of people their fair share. He introduced a rare car on this line, and we talk about it. Okay, so please, the baby crawl here, the baby born here. You see, about B, $650,000 for inauguration. This is smelling like a rat.
Thank you. And for people who say that the face is sticking side, that it surprises me because that the face
Yes, it's not like this, right?
that is so brutal when it comes to all of these political actors. So do your research, listen to previous programs before you come on and criticize me.
Exactly. Mhm.
Let me go to Mr. Jones to give us his closing statement. Mr. Jones, we will be back here tomorrow. We'll still got some more talking to do.
This is interesting.
Reverend Ali is going to Liberia. I mean, he going hang with the big boys, but we'll have
Yes.
talking to do tomorrow. We'll talking to do
We'll
before
be
you.
here.
Yeah.
We'll be here. Well, look. So let me just declare: I do take side. I take the Liberian poor people side. I take the people who are suffering, the unemployed, the people who for generation in Liberia have gotten nothing while this rearing year, and other people will go and get their positions. They leave for America. They live their wonderful lives, and they go back there, and the people are left with nothing. I just checked on the Reverend. I'm an analyst, so I left facts. You see that this organization, the one Liberia that Borka set it up, Borka is running it. That is not true. The organization was set up according to your website in 2017. Okay, and it's an organization of collaboration initiated aimed at preventing health and wellness. But Borka name is not even mentioned on this thing. They don't even have a financial statement. So stop going off. I know you guys, you political people, and I think it's unfortunate because now using this as my closing statement, Mr. Garley.
30 seconds, please.
Okay, we should respect clergies in Liberia to speak up. I remember a time when there were people that Michael Francis, Bishop Michael Francis, and people like Mother Dukley, people who suffer, who carry the cross, and I have all respect for the clergy. But it's some of you people, your political clergy people, that make it so bad that people don't have any respect for anybody with the title Reverend or Bishop in Liberia. Because you won't be political at the same time, you won't be, and the people are suffering. You stop taking Liberian people for joke. You won't be a politician, join to be a politician. But when you come on the one hand and say, I'm a man of God, and then you see truth, and you deny it and become political, I have a problem with that. So I hope you come back, we can have this exchange.
Thank you. He will be here tomorrow night, same time, same place. You'll come a little bit early tomorrow night. Please give us your closing statement.
You guys can hear me, right?
Loud and clear.
Okay, fine. So, it's very disingenuous that Reverend Ade will come and talk. So, OPL 480 was so good for Liberia when, in fact, it ended up strangulating politically the country. And 1979, the West riot, and which led to the 1980 coup that led to 13 government officials being tried in a kangaroo court and executed. And you come here and say that PL 480 work in the interest of Liberian people. Seriously? Right now, Liberian people have preference for Pusawa rest because of PL 480. How many Liberian people do you see cooking country rest in the house? How many? Don't come and insult the intelligence of Liberian people. And don't come and tell me to read as a researcher. If I'm trying to understand and have a balance of a story, I don't go and read the progenitor of the idea. So in other words, if I want to understand whether this thing worked or not, I don't go and read the Congress document, because that whole idea came from the Congress. I go and read other independent individuals who looked at it and decided that it worked or it did not. And that's why I told you some time back that whole idea was about trying to subsidize U.S. farmers for producing surplus. So I don't know what you're talking about. That whole idea, when the U.S. government talk about we give $50,000 to a country, $20,000 or $30,000 of that money is used for U.S. contingency. It's all part of that budget. So I don't know what you're talking.
30 seconds.
That's
30
number one. Number two, to wrap up.
Yeah.
Wrap up. At the end of the day, Mr. Joseph Boakai was elected into power because the Liberian people felt that George Weah did not understand that they needed jobs. If Mr. Boakai, in the midst of everything that he's going to do and has started to do, doesn't understand that, I am very sorry he's going to be a one-term president, or whether it's Kuhn that will be there at the time. Okay, so And if they continue to take the Liberian people for granted and continue to demonstrate to the Liberian people that Western democracy is not working for the country, we may be headed along the path of Guinea or Mali or something like that. Because at some point, people will say, well, it's not about you know book or you don't know, but it's none of those things. It's just that we need someone that's patriotic that can carry this country forward. Don't underestimate the power of the people. Thank you.
Mrs. Lexi Brooks Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Garley. Thank you to my fellow panelists. It's been a great evening of discussions. As we continue to discuss the issues that matter to Liberia, we cannot dismiss people for who they supported. Liberia is all of our business, whether you support this current administration or the party, rather. We all have a voice in Liberia. So to our audience, no, we're not here to put down anyone. We just talk about the issues. For me, if you look at my name, it says Letty Brooks Roberts, Liberia First. And so, with that said, I just want to say, I listened tonight to Joe Penner, and someone asked him about the issue about why don't you guys have your children attend the schools, and you as lawmakers go to the hospitals of Liberia rather than fly out or send your children abroad. Just where when you do that, you invest in where your children and yourself have to go. So this is part of the government issue. When we talk about the budget, 900,000 was we as budget. So they brought it down a little more or a little less rather to look more economical, but it's still exorbitant for a country that has people still walking barefooted, have no fire services, no emergency services, and all of the things that matter to a growing economy. I say thank you. Before I go, I want to say happy pre-birthday to my darling twin daughters who will be turning a certain age tomorrow. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
Well, Reverend Idatus, I will give you the last word. And folks, will be back tomorrow night, same time, same place. And before Idatus, I want to say hi to my friend and brother, Carl Jebo. Jebo, how you doing, my brother? It's been a long time. Happy New Year. Thomas Awaji, Dennis Ware, and the rest of the folks watching. I also want to say the big thanks to Emmanuel Jackson for his contribution towards the platform tonight. Human Troll, Kringa, as always, thanks for your contribution and the rest of the crew. Idatus?
Well, thank you, Ashford. One of the challenges I often have with some of our Liberian panelists is that when they are unable to substantiate the facts, when we're talking substance and policies, they divert and go to titles and personal attacks. All I did here for my brother Jones was to present him the fact, which he erroneously researched and didn't find a One Health program. He keeps saying One Liberia. Unfortunately, it just tells you that you have not been following the Honorable Joseph Imamboika, so you can freely make such accusations. But I'm glad that now you know what he's done for Liberia, and hopefully, on the next segment you will be able to refine your commentaries. There is so much insinuations regarding the fact that the Honorable Boyka donated to grieving families. Grieving families. We left the goodwill, the posturing of assisting grieving Liberian families. We say, oh, we are insinuating this is pay for play without evidence. And if he doesn't show the evidence, therefore he's guilty of pay for play. But then you haven't asked the question, but the Honorable Joseph Yumapweka, where did you get the money from to inspire volunteers to clean the city? They're not interested in that, but it's all about let's have a gotcha moment to catch him. Listen, we're certainly open to criticism, and that is the beauty of democracy. So we can say that Western democracy is bad when we ourselves are practicing Western democracy through, number one, fundamental freedom of speech on this platform. Your criticisms are welcome. There is this famous politician whose name I forgot. He basically stated that it's good to have opposition because through their eyes, you get to see your flaws and make improvement. We are not against criticism. That is the beauty of it. But equally so, when we are countering criticism, you shouldn't regard the countering to mean we're shutting you down. No, This government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. And when the Honorable Joseph Imabweka, President-elect, is not fulfilling the dreams and aspirations of the Liberian people, of which he was elected, the people will make that decision. Who are the people? You are. I am one of them. All we are asking is for a collaborative effort to bring forth a wholesome function in Liberia, in the words of Willamara Talbot. And make no mistake, the change that we can believe in, it is not just brought about by Joseph Imabweka. He stated his only legacy is to lay a foundation of good leadership, a foundation that you and I, this generation, will be able to build upon and build a Liberia in which we can all be proud of. Don't hate those coming from America. Love them because they are Liberians as well. Don't hate Yonin Seal because he measured the president. He is a thriving Liberian in these diaspora. Let's work together and become one nation indivisible under God with liberty and justice for all. If Liberia must prosper, it requires a collective effort of all of us, diaspora and Liberians on the ground. Needless should I tell you what I do on the ground for my country, Liberia, whom I love so very dearly. Thank you, Ashford. Appreciate you. January 12th is my birthday, and I will be traveling to Liberia at that point.
I think it's only fair. I just got instructions from my business partner, who happens to be my woman. She said I should give each of you 30 more seconds before we go tonight. So let me begin with Alice Jones.
So you're gonna rewind me?
Yeah. Each of you 30 seconds. So she just told me that. So she's enjoying the flow tonight. So Alex, we'll start with you.
Brother, nobody is against Joseph Boakai personally or Joshua personally, and that's the part where I think there are some of us who are not inherently politicians. We are more of the welfare and the any means conditions. I'm a businessman. I'm a finance guy. I got no political thing in me. I see you eloquently talking about this, that. You talked about Liberia belongs to all of us, and we all should come and collaborate to build a better society. Four your panelists telling you that $650,000, including somebody that working, banking, advise some of the largest corporations in the world, telling you that it doesn't make any sense to spend $650,000 at this point in time. The upticks, the economy, you owe $2 billion, you're running $100 billion. This is not a way to start. We're helping you. We're giving you suggestions. Go back and think about it. It's not too late because you start down that road. Reduce salary by at least 50% for your top people. I'm not talking about the bottom people, the ministers. You guys are running to Liberia, won't be minister. You won't be directors. You'll take a personal pay cut of at least $50,000 so that you can balance your budget for once in the history of Liberia.
Thank you.
Every time, yeah, just 1 minute. Every time you gotta go big, you gotta go big America for money, then you'll take the money and you'll pay yourself. That is not right. So thank you, and I hope we'll talk more tomorrow.
Thank you. Reverend George.
Yeah, 30 seconds. You know, for me, I like to let it get issued to the very end. The brother is saying Boakai gave money to a grieving family, you know, and you can say here and say it's amiable. But at the same time, too, for accountability, where did Joseph Boakai get a $50,000 from? Where he got a 200 because rice from? You got to please go back again in your chat room, in your war room, and get that information and bring it here tomorrow. Don't run away from it and bring all the sentimental issue. Oh, they gave to a grieving family. Oh, they're cleaning the city. Where did Joseph Boakai get the $50,000 from? That suddenly, before taking office, he become this philanthropist now that is ministering to a grieving family. Good as it is, we want to know the source. That's all. We are not condemning the gift. Where is as a public figure? Where in fact you read Code of Conduct as though they were exonerating Joseph Boakai from being accountable to the Liberian people because though he was elected, but he has not taken office. That's your justification. And then also you came here. This is the third time you spoke. You have not spoken to the 650,000 that they are using on the inauguration. Why are you dodging the issue?
Maybe you
is this amount?
Maybe he'll tell you tomorrow. Maybe.
Yeah, is it amount justified for you? And if you don't have the answer, no, you don't have to have the answer. Go back in your war room. But please, we need to find out the root, the source of this $50,000 and 200 Becquerel rice. Don't tell me it came from Joseph Boaga charity. Don't tell me it came from Joseph Boaga.
Thank you very much.
Donated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Letty Brooks Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Garley. Yeah, you know, I want to say, in contrast to the current president, that was a great gesture that he went to identify with the people that lost their families and their loved ones. You know, the tragic accident. However, the question remains, where this money come from all of a sudden, and from what we are seeing, without getting all of the facts. For me, I already stated that with the Stanton, or I can make a phone call. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you that you have the current president at your fingertip and you can boast of it? Yes, it's good that people can do good for the country. If all of us could do it, it's great. But why does this country have money and everybody needs to be giving them a handout? We have emergencies. Everybody should bring, $2, $5. Why? When the country has a budget. The people who need the money do not get it, but the people who get the money do not do anything for the people. So that's the issue we have. And so we're asking for change. We should see something different, not the same old, same old. Thank you.
Okay, I will allow Dr. Fish to go last on this round. So Idatu, take it away.
Great. So, you know, the budget on the George Weah was 900,000. The Joseph Imabwaka is 650,000. So my brother, who happens to be a financial analyst, you know, he's making a judgment. But the question becomes, has he looked at what the budget prioritizes? But we're yet criticizing the budget without understanding that this budget has to do with transportation, security, international delegates who are coming. And you're telling us that, oh, it's too much money concerning what is at stake in terms of what needs to be done. So let's be very clear. These are things that are allotted for, but he cut that down to $650,000 to host inauguration of his government and foreign dignitaries coming to the country. And you haven't looked at the itemized issues on the budget. And as a financial analyst, you are asserting that you know better when you're not even on the ground to see what they have to do. You have not had health consultations as a financial analyst. That's what we do. But you saw a proposal and you say, wow, Liberia is suffering, so therefore you can't do this, without understanding the intimacy in managing inaugural programs in the nation state. Imagine if cleaning the city was added to that budget. Thank God for the peace-loving, patriotic Liberians who volunteered the time to do that. Imagine if that was included in the budget to clean the city. Those many individuals and organizations who are contributing, if you put all of that into financial terms, do you know how much millions we'll be spending? But this is what we're doing. The question becomes, oh, you can dodge the question all you want. We need to know where he got that money from. I just told you. Is it possible? You are the one making the insinuations for pay to play. And to my friend and brother, Dr. Fisk, he stated, Liberia was not producing country rice. Let me remind you, Dr. Fisk, a Liberian produced country rice. And it was his rice that Stanton Witherspoon, through the Spoon Initiative, donated 200 bags of rice and more, born of Liberians in Liberia producing rice. So this idea that you keep saying Liberia has a problem, listen, that rice is being produced in Liberia by Liberians and other goods. We can do more and more will be done. And to my friend and brother, Mr. Jones, I encourage you again to go back and read about the One Health program. You don't have any knowledge of that. And as I close, Ashford, I certainly like to encourage you to invite again our own friend and brother, Mr. Tolbert Yinswa, to come on this program and provide even more intimate details per the leadership of Joseph Imabwaka and how he's helped Liberia over the last 12 years under Madam Ellen Johnson's leadership. On this note, I thank you.
Dr. Fisk.
Yeah, again, it's very disingenuous that the Reverend would talk about how Liberians are producing rice. Oh, no, no, I've said it. I made it clear that Liberia doesn't have an agricultural problem. Liberia has an agro-industrial problem. So what it means is that even though we are producing, the crops are being damaged because why? We don't have the factories. Harness those groups and create job opportunities that would decongest Monrovia. So no, you got it wrong. I got it right. 1979 rice riot tells you that country resting you're talking about doesn't suffice. Liberians became eaters of Posawa. And then when that Posawa was withdrawn, it caused massive conflict in the country. Currently, Liberia loses billions of dollars yearly because why? We are not consuming what we grow. And the reason for that is the legacy of Joseph Boakai. I would hope that Boakai will fix the problem. And one of the ways that he will fix the problem is to use $650,000, maybe 90% of that money, to have missionaries in Liberia that he will have dedicated, missionaries that will have created job opportunities for Liberians. Because I tell you what, there's only one major reason why a popular guy like George Weah became a one-term president. He did not create jobs for Liberians. And Joseph Boakai shouldn't fool himself to think, say, he won the election over George Weah because he was popular. That was a vote of no confidence against George Weah and not for Joseph Boakai. So if he doesn't get that message and start to create jobs with his inauguration, that's an opportunity missed. He continued to ignore and continue to not give the Liberian people the respect that they've given him by electing him as president. He's going to be a one-term president. And if this charade that is democracy, and you say democracy is democracy because people can express themselves. No, democracy is democracy because when you're expressing yourself and you're not getting results, that's not democracy. There are a lot of systems of government people have the ability to express themselves, same as democracy. The difference between democracy is that accountability makes it possible for them to get the goods and services that they yearn for. Please let us understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, folks, again, that's all the time we have to be with you tonight. And God willing, we'll be back tomorrow night, same time, same place. Until then, please allow me to say a few words from the wise man. Tough times don't last, tough people do. The height of a man is never known until he rises. Because there's no second chance to make that first impression. Don't see okra and swallow bone. Because you can't hide your nakedness from bathing bucket. When God bless you, don't see that medicine. When white men know you friend black man. Oh man. What people think about you and impossibility for your dream. It is none of your business. Let them worry about it. Don't take it personal when somebody said no to you. They are not saying no to you. They are saying no to themselves. They are saying no to living a beacon life. They are saying no to what is going on in their head because they are suffering from possibility blindness. But see, young blue, c'est comme lui pelea. Graças tu paye second blue. Da ya ko me tira ji. Abariago, Shatuka Karate, Ramon, not duplicatos. He doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely stronger than a lion. As for the giant, that now you know me, Garley. Have a good night. Oh, man.